got kind of an interesting viewer question I had submitted to me earlier this week, and it was about sponsorship, and I wanted to give it a little bit of light while we're doing this Summer Nats preview episode, which is obviously what this one's heavily about besides some other notes. But Braden and Dalton are two perfect examples of drivers that have obviously been able to find personal sponsorship to continue racing in both karts, and then obviously in Braden's case to do a heck of a lot of racing in cars, and has a lot that's been able to make it happen for him. So in terms of basic things, obviously, to go over, but also stuff that they maybe would have wished they learned a little bit sooner, I wanted to give them some airtime, and then obviously my thoughts, because we get some parents that ask about this. Obviously, racing's an expensive sport. You're looking to find ways to get it funded. How do you get that kind of funding? What do you need to know? What kind of mindset to have? So, Braden, your mindset with sponsorship as a guy who's had to get it on a bigger level for car racing, but on the karting level stuff too. Is there anything you wish you would have known prior to this point, you know?
I mean, it's really just you always, just in life in general, it shouldn't really just be for getting sponsors, but you always want to be kind and friendly to everyone. You want to let your personality shine through, especially when it comes to racing, because especially when you're young, you're like 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. You might get an interview here and there, and obviously with Kart Chaser doing what you guys are doing nowadays, there's a lot more opportunities for drivers to learn, more of the PR side. So I think it's really just, you always have to be kind and friendly to everyone, let your personality shine through. Don't be so nervous on cameras, because, I remember I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to try and be a certain way or try to look a certain way on the cameras when I was younger. But honestly, if you just are yourself and you just let your personality shine through it, things will take care of itself.
Dalton, what about you? Stuff you wish you would have learned a little bit sooner that maybe would have helped?
I definitely think in karting, since it's not necessarily like car racing, it's not a huge group. It's more of a smaller group of people, and it's a karting world, really. So I'd say just getting to know everyone, really talking with everyone around the pits, really just like Braden said, being kind to everyone, yeah, but also if you really need sponsorship and you really need to, going up to people, seeing what they can do for you, like you said, being kind to people so that when you do need help, or if you don't need help now and you do need help, they can help you out with it if you ask for it at the right time. A lot of people don't like necessarily just handing out money. You have to have something in return when you ask for sponsorship. So stuff that you can have in return is saying, well, some kids, even some of the smaller kids, say, here, if you can help me out now, then I'll give you a percentage of my income from racing. If I do make it in the future, they give you about 5% or 10% of what they make in the future. They say, put them on a contract and say, if you give me this certain amount of money now, I'll give you 5% of everything I make in the future. And I mean, if you have to do that, you have to do that. It's any way you have to get money, really. Honestly, the sport is so expensive. You have to do what you got to do,
Yep. And again, we had a great comment come in here on the comment section from one of our regular viewers, Neo Gothic Racing, saying sponsorship's easy. Treat it as a business. When you're sponsored, you're speaking for that company that's sponsoring you. Go out, talk to people, get out there. And to build off that, really, like what Braden's saying and like what Dalton's saying, like nurturing relationships, I think is the biggest thing that a lot of people could be doing a whole lot sooner. And by that, not just going out and networking as a kid. For any kids, and we do have a lot of kids that come back and watch this show, watch some of the clips, or listen to what we do, or pay attention to the broadcast. The first thing you can try and do is come out of your shell. Like Braden said, you may look up to certain people and you may want to be like them, and that's great to model after them, but don't put pressure on yourself that you feel like you have to act a certain way. And don't tear yourself down when you watch interviews or watch videos of yourself. Get to a point where it's no different than watching your own onboards on the racetrack and critiquing them of how you want to talk. If you feel like you could have done a little better, if you feel like you could have come off a little better, you can be a little bit critical, but in a positive way. But, at the end of the day, if you're worried about looking cool on camera, the cool people at the racetrack are the people that win and run up at the front. And whatever they are, however they are, how they dress, how they talk, how they look, that becomes cool. So if you do perform and you run up front, who you are as a person will be the cool thing. If you're a kid that wants to look cool on camera or feels like you have to be a certain way, or just, again, looking professional, at the end of the day, standing out to a degree is important. You don't want to look like a clown, but you want to at least have some flair and have a little bit of flavor to yourself. And then from a sponsorship standpoint, when you're younger, like what Dalton said, we're in a very smaller, a much smaller base than, say, some of the car racing series are. In certain cases, we're equal when you compare it to maybe amateur car racing like Spec Miata racing, local club racing for car racing, stuff like that. The audiences is probably about the same. You look at the Road to Indy, you look at the MX5 Cup series, that's obviously a bit of a bigger audience, and you're running as a support series at a much bigger show. So there are more fan engagement that you can use to kind of pitch. But let's say you want to do that stuff down the road, or you want to get some help and down the road, then you maybe don't need it, or you can get by without it now. And running some free logos on your cart and treating it as if it's a real sponsorship deal, even if all you're doing is giving them logo placement and thanking them in social posts and working on that for year one, is how you nurture that relationship too. It doesn't have to be just that you kind of butter someone up, for lack of a better word, and be friends with everybody, and then your friends can help you out later. If you can act like they're a sponsor, throw them on, and that's another way where you can show them what that value is, where it's not costing you anything to put their logo on, because nobody knows whether or not you're getting paid by them or not, but treat them like a real sponsor. And then maybe they're going to eventually warm up to the idea or see the value that you're bringing them, whether it's more eyeballs on your social accounts, more eyeballs on the broadcast, etc. And then they could help you out down the line when you need it. So when you don't need the help is the time when you should be looking for it, to kind of prime yourself for it a little bit later down the road. And this obviously needs its own show on its own with some more drivers. And we'd love to get a few more pro drivers in here as well, like Braden, like guys who have climbed the ladder, to get a whole lot of funding behind them, because that is a whole different world. Like Dalton said, there's all kinds of ways you can sell future income. There's B2B deals. There's a lot. And we know we got a lot of parents that are watching that as well. So those stuff will be coming.